Okay. I'm just gonna kind of go everything completely for you to let you know why I'm still, chasing this rather than just saying, I'd get rid of it. Because, yeah, like if I ran into the things that, like I told you, I would get rid of a car for, then yeah, I just would have probably called you, and just, told you point blank, I'm sorry we've gone this far to find out the worst news, but it's just not worth going further. You should quit. But I haven't seen those things. Like one, the possible head gasket issue. There's certain things that should show with that. For one, like if it's getting coolant into the oil, you should see milky oil. Not seeing that. Your oil looks good, right color. Everything seems good there. If it was getting into combustion, we should have combustion or fuel vapors and stuff eventually getting the coolant. I never get indication of that. The coolant always seems to stay fresh and clean. That always seems okay. Also, there should be lost compression on the heads. The car seems full power. There's no way that it could be at full power if it was missing compression. So I get every indication the head gaskets are fine. And whereas I couldn't check the transmission fluid, same thing there on how it drives. If the transmission fluid was contaminated, things like that, the transmission would be terrible. At worst, I felt a little bit of kind of jerkiness with shifting at higher RPMs, but that's pretty normal with a 200,000 mile car. May just need a fluid change eventually. So yeah, I don't see anything that's a game ender. But yeah, I was just constantly having the headache of what's going on. Well, last night I explained it 110%, even with the symptoms. This back here also goes to the heater core. That was one of the symptoms I kept running into, sometimes not having heat. Basically, what this means is, since this is what was breaking open, the air would be in the heater core at first. The worst that would cause is no heat because the rest of the cooling system can flow. And then sometimes as it would get put under more pressure, it would push it out. And then once it got that air bubble sucked in and pushed it, once it got up here, it was blocking again. You could always tell because that lower radiator hose had gone cold and the thing started to overheat. Now, usually it would, by the time I would truly catch it, this whole thing would be overflowing. So there was just so much fluid everywhere, I couldn't tell that was messing up. But this time I caught it when it was just starting. This started to rise, but it hadn't overheated, and I had the car shut off. But then I see some steam, and it is from this sitting right over the exhaust. There's a little exhaust pipe right underneath that this thing blew open, let fluid out, and it hit that. That even explains why I can run it so long. It's another thing too. Again, if the engine itself was broke, there should be no reason that I could sit there and idle it for a full hour and make it run perfectly fine, and that it's only when it's put under stress that it finally starts to mess up again. But with that being the problem, it does make sense that would cause that. So it's just barely holding on. When it's just idling, it's not under much stress. It can hold closed. I can get the air bubbles out, and then it's fine. It'll just keep on idling. But once you go and the engine's under labor and there's more coolant force being pushed and all that, those start to open up again, start letting air into that heater core. I would get that kind of heat off and on, and then the air would eventually get up here and it'd overheat again because it was blocking the radiator from cooling anything. So that is, I'm certain now that's 100% what's been going on. It just keeps reintroducing air bubbles because that part of the cooling system back there is also worn out. That's just one of those that has to do with an old car. I think a lot of things are just kind of getting old, and I think that just like your hose up here, the reason I'd say, we replace that, the old one, it actually opened up around this. You could actually see opening. It was getting that bad about malforming. Well, that's just clearly what's happening with some of the back part of the cooling hoses. So yeah, so again, we can do this. So if you decide to go forward, I am confident we can fix this. There's no way it could have run as long as it did if it was anything other than this. Now that I finally caught this, it makes 110% sense. But also again, yeah, I know it's a tough choice. That's why I couldn't blame you if you did choose that. It's an older car, 200,000 miles. That's pretty risky. If it was one of my cars, they're a lot lower mileage. I would put all this into it because then I'd expect to get another 100,000 miles out of them. This, I can't really say. It seems good now, but just being so high mileage, I can't say that something else big might not go down the road. So I understand you got a hard choice to make. So yeah, I've just been driving myself nuts with it for a few days now. Taking longer than I originally expected. And even though I've had to put a little extra into it, I never try to charge somebody else for something that's just me having to learn. Like I wasn't familiar with these cooling systems, how they work. I don't charge for any of that. So there has been a little bit extra hit to me, but I'm not adding that onto you. But again, yeah, I know we're in pretty deep so far, so it's all up to you if you want to quit and cash out at where you're at now and scrap it, or if you want to put that little extra in too and go for it. It's up to you.